New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you over here.
Rev BRZ right here.
And Reverend Brock right here.
And this is New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. It would appear that we might be having a little bit of time travel happening in our communications today. Don't worry, folks, that all clears itself up once we get prayed in and rolling here. So I want to introduce you to our special guest today. If you're new to the program, Reverend LZ and I get together every Tuesday and discuss and have some conversations, often with special guests, not always, but often. And today is one of those days where we do have a special guest. Reverend Dr. Brock Ford is an independent ordained interfaith and religious science minister whose ministry is of spiritual and ethical practices that are transforming lives, relationships, and careers. Brock's main passion is supporting the disenfranchised, struggling, and hurting to a path that leads them to their passion, dreams, and best life. Amen. Reverend Dr. Brock, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here with both of you. Thank you very much. And Reverend Z, it's nice to meet you. Thank you. I'm glad to be a part of the conversation today.
Yes, I no doubt. I time traveled just in time to get here. So I'm sure my time travel is messing the synchronization up here, but we're going to get
there. Glad you made it.
Now, folks, I met Dr. Brock in a couple of years back now, actually, at my first affiliated New Thought Network conference that happened a couple years back, and again we got to spend time together this past September. So it's kind of on me that it has taken this long to get you on the program. My apologies. We're gonna make that happen a little easier over time. But I did want to let you share with everybody a little bit yourself, and rather than me try to read it all off and remember. What I do know is I have been struck by your open-hearted spirit, and I'm really glad that we're going to get to have this conversation. So if you would, sir, please share with everybody a little bit about who you are and how you found this thing called New Thought, and what your ministry really is doing out there in the world.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Of course, my name is Brock Ford. You don't have to call me Reverend or Doctor or anything. It's okay. But at any rate, the way that I got into ministry, I never wanted to be a minister. I never wanted to follow that path. My grandfather was a minister and my mother was a minister. My mother, a Unity minister, my grandfather, a Southern Baptist minister, and never really wanted to follow in that path at all. And in 2018, my older sister died of a stroke. And then about 2 months later, my mother died of a stroke as well. And that just sort of sent me into a grief that I had never experienced before. And so I quit my job and just stayed in my house for a year. Luckily, I had a little bit of savings and stayed in my house, and I was isolating. I would sleep during the day so I wouldn't have to deal with the world, and I would stay up all night. And one night I went down to my garage about 4 a.m. to get something. Don't even recall. And I went down and I got about halfway into the garage because I don't park my car in there. And I just fell to the ground. And I just lifted my hands and I just said, God, help me. I don't know how to do this. And y'all, in that split second moment, a wind, it was like a wind. I don't know if it came from outside of the house into the house or from within me out and wrapped me, but it was the most warm, inviting, beautiful, comforting feeling that I'd ever felt in my life. And I heard the words, and I don't even know how to describe you how that happened, but I heard the words of, you are ready now. Go spread the message of love, compassion, tolerance, and forgiveness lead to understanding. And so I was like, okay, what does that mean? And I didn't want to hear that. That's not the path that I want in life. And I've been in real estate for the last 18 years and also owned my own magazines and advertising, marketing, and things for newspapers across the country. So that's not what I wanted. And it was so strong and so palpable and so real that I knew I changed, y'all. In that split second moment, something happened to me. And the grief, it didn't just go away, but it lightened a whole lot. And I had an understanding of how through my mom and my sister's death, my life was getting better and changing. And that the dream of helping other people was coming to fruition. So I called my mentor, Martha Creek, and I know you know her, Robert. And Rev BRZ, you're shaking your head. You know Martha as well?
I've heard the name, yes.
And I called Martha. I told Oh, good. She's a very dear friend of mine and my mentor. So she said, let's get you some credentials, baby. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? And she hooked me up with Angelo at Emerson Theological Institute. And so I spent 2.5 years getting my master's and my doctorates, animal chaplain, practitioners, all those things. It took about 2.5 years. And I graduated 2 years ago, I guess it was. And then last year, I became an affiliate of Emerson Church Without Walls for independent ministers and things of that nature. But my ministry, y'all, is, do you have a minute for a little story to tell you?
Absolutely.
It goes way back. My story goes back. Okay. Well, my story goes back to about the age of, I think I was 5 or 7. Those two numbers keep in my head, but I'm not. So I was 5 or 7 years old. But the first African-American family was moving into our neighborhood. And it was about 4 houses down. I saw the U-Haul. I saw the little kids out playing while the parents were moving furniture in. And so I went inside and I got my truck. And I was going to go down and play with the little boy and meet the little boy. And my grandfather, the Baptist minister, saw me leaving the house. And he said, boy, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to go meet that little boy and play with him. He says, no, you're not. And I said, yeah, I am. And he says, no. I'm like, why? He says, we don't play with those kind of people. And I didn't understand that. I had never heard that before. And I had not been exposed to that, because I saw my grandpa up in church preaching about love everyone, right? And so, but I found out that there were differences. I didn't know there was a difference until that moment. I didn't see differences in people that young. And so, long story short, I went anyway after he turned his back. I went down and I was playing with the little boy. And I remember the mother asking me, she said, son, does your mama know you're down here? And I said, oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, she does. And no, she didn't. But which my mother wouldn't have cared. But my grandpa did. And so I guess I was there about 15 minutes and I felt something grab me on my shoulder. And that was my grandpa. And he told the lady, I'm sorry. And he drugged me home and whipped me after that and said, we don't eat with them. We don't, all these things. And I was so confused. I was really confused because I didn't understand. And then go some many years later, at the age I was having lunch with my grandmother. And she asked a question that I never thought a grandmother would ask. And she said, Brock, are you more than just friends with that guy you're around with? And I looked at her and I didn't know what to say. And so I said, yes, I am. And she says, what do you mean? And I said, I'm gay. And her food went up in the air and she fled out the restaurant. And I lived downtown and I was out in the suburbs with her. So by the time I got back to my house, my grandpa and my uncle were sitting on my doorstep. Oh. And I thought, oh, this is not good, because they never been to my house before, So at any rate, I got out of the car and I'm like, what are y'all doing here? What do you want? And they said, we talked to your grandmother and we want to have a talk with you. And I went, oh. I said, well, no, you're not coming in. And I said, let's talk right here. Well, they ended up in my house anyway. And it was not pretty, y'all. It was not a good thing. So they were going to beat the demon homosexuality out of me. And they did that. And I ended up in the hospital. And 3 and she said, baby, you need to leave town. They're planning to kill you. And I believed her. And so that next day I left town. That was 38 years ago. And I've never been back except for my mama's funeral. But at any rate, at that moment, when I was in my car driving to where I didn't know what to do or where to go, I realized I don't want this to happen to anybody else. I want to help other people in the same situation as me. And then thinking back about that 7-year-old that was still inside of here, I also wanted to help the disenfranchised, which to me was Black people because they were put upon, they were ousted as well. They weren't part of the regular society that I knew about. And so I wanted to learn more. I wanted to become close to them. I wanted to let them know that I love them, even if other people in my family didn't, and in the world. And so it became my quest. And it wasn't until, I guess, 2019. So between those years, I just did that as a person. I let people know that I love them. I let people know that they were worthy of love and worthy of God's love. But I did it just in my own walking around the world way. But in 2019, when all that happened, I ended up, I just told you, going through Emerson. And I was hired. I was asked to come and be the associate minister of Unity Spiritual Center in San Francisco. I did that for 1.5 years, y'all, and I decided this is not for me. Standing up in a pulpit and thinking about a sermon every week and what it's going to be, or a talk, whatever you want to call it, a message, just isn't what I want. And I didn't really care for the board telling me exactly how to preach and what to do. So at any rate, I realized this isn't my calling. So after Easter last year, I resigned, and I now work with Urban Angels San Francisco. A dear friend of mine started that company, and it is where we go out and we feed the homeless every day. And I work with a lot of people that have animals, dogs and bunny rabbits and cats. So I work with them every day. I help them get to services that they need, or into housing or medical things. So I'm really enjoying that. And the thing about it is I'm sharing new thought principles out on the street with people, or at a gas station. I saw a woman the other day. She was crying and I was pumping my gas. And she's pumping her gas, crying with a little boy like up to her knees. And I walked over to her and I said, ma'am, are you okay? She said, no, I'm not. And I said, what's wrong? I said, may I talk with you? She said, I just left Kaiser and found out that I have leukemia. And so we stayed there for probably about 40 minutes, just praying and talking and visualizing, choosing words to say and to put to your I am and things of that nature. That happens to me every single day. Wherever I go, I meet someone. And, I used to laugh at my grandpa because he would go and just meet people on the street and sit down on the curb and pray with them. And I used to get so embarrassed. And now I'm doing the same thing. So it's at any rate good that comes out of everything. But my ministry is really, truly helping the disenfranchised and people that are ousted. And what's going on in politics right now, and I don't like to talk about politics, but it makes me want to do even more to help people that are on the outskirts, because all of us deserve God. All of us are worthy, and all of us deserve to live our best life. And that's how I feel. So that's my ministry, and that's what I do. And I do guest speak. I do workshops and seminars around the Bay Area, but mostly I'm out on the streets.
Now, Reverend Brock, where are you from originally? Are you from San Francisco, California originally, or?
I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah, and I think,
lived all over the country. Say that again.
And I think, I was going to say, I think, the important thing that I got from your story there is that the idea of being active in the community as a minister, as a person of faith, as a person of concern is what's needed more and more now. Everybody is feeling disenfranchised. The so-called fortunate and the unfortunate, if you had to put a label on it, because I think we have allowed ourselves to be, as you said, disenfranchised, whether someone put us in that category or we jumped into it ourselves for whatever reason. And I think the universe is beginning to show us more and more that there's a oneness that has to be respected. And if it's not, there's a price to pay. And so that's where I think every one of us, whether we call ourselves ministers or leaders or people or just plain old citizens, we have to continue, and if we haven't started, begin to figure out how we honor people where they are and let everybody know and remind ourselves on occasion that there's only one.
Yeah. Brock, I've got
true.
a big, huge respect that echoing everything that Elzia says, taking this philosophy into the streets and going beyond the walls of the traditional church model, and taking that step of authenticity. Now, it sounds like it was under threat of death, and death at the hands of family, even, that drove you out of your home, really, and out into the wilds of the world, and yet being so willing to and so committed to your authenticity, to who you are, to your authentic self, that is not only commendable but honorable beyond mention. And then to recognize that you took the best parts of your grandfather and made them your own, while still rejecting all those parts that he didn't understand and that were dangerous, that were life-threatening to you, and still being able to find that good that was there in his influence in your ministry, and recognizing that you're changing that life cycle real quickly in that regard.
It's true. You know, yes. I held that bag, like Santa Claus's big old bag of toys, on my back for 38 years. And it wasn't until I got into Emerson and started going to school that I realized I've got to forgive them, because I'm the one still being hurt. I'm the one still carrying that image and those thoughts around with me. So I had to release that. So my greatest gift, I think, from the universe has been learning to be grateful in all things, in grief, in suffering, in pain, but learning to be grateful and to forgive. And so forgiving and surrendering that hold that experience had on me has brought me peace, has brought me freedom, and a triumphant life. And so I can now say, which it's only been about 2 years that I can say this, but I can now say, after that time of really doing that work, is that if it hadn't been for New Thought and the principles and the practices that I've learned over the years, over the last 25 years, I wouldn't have made it. And there were people that showed up in my life to help me and to assist me that I'd never dreamed of. So being able to have that peace is the greatest thing. And now I can look back, like you said, and I can go, well, you know what? My grandpa did this much bad, but he did this much good. You know, and that's something I learned from Martha Creek, was that, you know, there was this much bad, and it was really bad, but then there was this much good my whole life. And so I decided to look at and be thankful for that experience, even though I got beat up, that I had that, because I would have never left Memphis. I would not have had the adventurous life that I've had. And I don't think I would have been able to truly be myself within that family construct in Memphis, Tennessee. So life is wonderful, and it was hard to overcome that, but through the ministry of going to Emerson and things of that nature, I see it all now as a blessing. And I can say, thank you, Grandpa. Thanks for doing that. You know, which is really crazy, but it's real.
Well, yeah, and that's the key, I think. One of the keys to a successful life is that, you know, life is not conspiring against you to give you hurtful or harmful things, and we can reframe it and, you know, put it in a container however we want. But the fact remains, adversity is that thing that introduces a man or woman to themselves. You have no idea what you can withstand or what will motivate you until you've gotten into a situation that's not comfortable, that is somewhat adverse. Which there are many places in nature that confirms the fact that without that, the fullness of who you are or what a thing is cannot be experienced.
It's beautiful. It's true. Thank you for sharing that. True. You know, and I travel the San Francisco Bay Area, wherever they'll have me, you know, talking about this and assuring people of all races, of all denominations and orientations that they are worthy and deserving and capable of love and being loved and having the life that they want, whether it's with your family or that you have to separate and move away from your family, as I did. So, but I really truly enjoy how New Thought, take a person on the street that I talk to that's maybe been on the street for several years and struggling. You know, I sit down and I'm like, what are you putting your I am to? And then they're like, what? What are you talking about? And then I talk about, what are you saying to yourself all day while you're sitting here trying to collect money and get food and whatever your needs are? What are you saying to yourself? Do you know that God wants you, that God is inside you? Of everyone, there's a spark of God in each of us. We are God expressing. Did you know that? They're like, what are you talking about? I grew up Catholic or whatever they say, are not religious at all. But when I tell them about change that thought processes, the processes and what you say to yourself every day, and then, okay, you're in this situation, but start talking yourself out of this situation. Don't just accept it unless that's what you want for your life. But if you want more, there's a way out. And so I do a lot of just talking and counseling with people. And I see their lives start to change. And I've seen some people get into homes. I've seen people, you know, get the medical care that they need and they change their life and they get off drugs, things of that nature. I'd say about 60% of the people I see are on drugs and the other are just hard on times in their life. So at any rate, but I've seen drug addicts get out of that. And we're still friends today. They still call me for counseling and for prayer. So that to me is just, that's my ministry. That's what I'm called to do. And a lot of people ask me why I'm not in a church or things of that nature. And I said, because the people I need to see won't walk into a church necessarily. So the people that I minister to, seek out to find and look for them are the people that are not going to walk into our churches, no matter what kind of church it is. So I'm reaching them where they are. And to me, it's a huge blessing, y'all. And I'm excited. You can see it, but I get excited about it because it's truly real. It's a real thing that's happening. Now, there's still a lot of homeless people all over the world, and there will be after I'm dead, but I'm affecting change in one by one life as it goes. And to me, that's more important than standing in church with 100,000 people and preaching whatever.
Yeah, and the the reality of the church or the future of the church has to change anyway. It is pretty obvious that church as it is right now, or as it used to be, is no longer working. Is no longer being utilized as it was intended, I believe. And so the leaders and futurists have to begin to re-articulate, revision, reimagine what a church is, what a church community is, what does it look like, what does it provide, other than going to a building on a certain day to hear a talk, to listen to music, to feel good, and then go home.
And then do what?
Yeah, that ain't working anymore.
Exactly. You know, I work with a lot of youth too, and I'm amazed, y'all, at how sometimes I feel so dumb being around these young people because they know quantum physics, they know all about spiral dynamics, you know, and I'm like, I got to catch up, you know. I went to school, yeah, I learned all these things, but now I got to catch back up. But they are smart and they know what they want and what they don't want. And so I'm seeing that more of the teenage years kids and the young adults are leaving the traditional churches and they're going to meetings and things of that nature with groups of people. So I see that as a evolution of the human race as well. And as they continue to grow, just like it had for us, we were the ones that changed it for a while, and now they're going to change it into an evolution of something that we don't even know yet. But they're smart and they know about spirit. They don't care about religion, so to speak. And I'm not talking for all youth, but a lot of them, they're really seeking the spirit these days. They're really realizing that what some of these Eckhart Tolle and different people are saying actually resonates with them. And they like that message of what we are doing and telling them and helping them with and supporting them and encouraging them, more so than the hellfire and brimstone and you're a sinner and you're dying and going to hell. Right?
Amen. Folks, if you wonder what you stumbled into here, this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. Our special guest today is Reverend Dr. Brock Ford, and it is time for us to take a quick break. Let Reverend Dr. Brock have a quick sip of water, and we're going to share just a little bit more with you about some of the things we're doing here on New Thought Media Network. Give us a minute of your time. We'll be back with more of New Thought Today, and we're going to talk more. We're already leaking into that side of the show, folks, where we start to talk about the future and how all of this can demonstrate and envision a world that works better for everyone. So come right back. We're going to dive into that real deep in just a moment. New Thought Today, more coming up soon. Stay with us.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And welcome back, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you here on New Thought Today, part of the New Thought Media Network. My co-host, Reverend Elzia Sekou, and our special guest today, Reverend Dr. Brock Ford. Now, before the break, we just started wandering into using terms like spiral dynamics and talking about the youth of New Thought, and those are conversations that Elzia and I love to jump into because we see, I think, a similar vision. It is imperative for New Thought to be so much more and then just a space we go to on Sundays and Wednesday nights, and maybe 1 week during the week for a class, and forget about during the rest of our lives. It needs to be a living, breathing, active philosophy. And just before we went on break, Brock, you were sharing with us a little bit more about what you see in the youth and how they are activating these principles. And I'd love to hear a little bit more, if you've got a story, or share a little bit more with us how you see that active in your community in the San Francisco area.
Okay. Well, specifically here, and I can also talk for some of my nieces and nephews back in Tennessee, but I believe that as the world continues to grow and expand and evolve itself and become more complex, we're also called to expand and grow and to evolve more as well, and to adapt to the changing world, adapt to the changing times, and to emerge into the world, into what we can offer and be a part of the world. And what can we do to help the world? And I believe that a lot more younger people these days are looking at things of that nature. They're looking at, how can I be a part of making peace? How can I be a part of marching, of resisting, all those different types of things. But with that, they're also studying, they're also learning, and they're growing. And I feel sort of dumb around some of them sometimes. As a matter of fact, I was at Unity Village, and I'm gay, of course. And so I would think that I would know a lot about it. I'm 60 years old. I've been doing this my whole life, so pretty much. But I was at Unity Village, and I had been called upon while I was there at the conference, Robert, this past year, by a Unity minister in the Bay Area to put together an inclusive, affirming workshop for a church of how to become inclusive and affirming, because there's some trans kids and gay kids and bi kids and things of that nature in that church, and they wanted some support and some programs for them. And so, and to belong and to have a community. So I think a lot of younger people they want that community, and they build that community, and you can see it. But at any rate, so that's a wonderful thing. I'm in the midst of writing that now. We're going to present it in January. But just with that said, I was at Unity Village, and I went in to look at some books to see what Unity thought about LGBTQ and plus IA as well. So at any rate, I went into the bookstore. There was two persons behind the desk, and I walked in and I said, "Hi, ladies, how are y'all doing today?" Okay, perfectly normal thing for me to say. And if it had been guys, I would have said, "Hey, guys, how are y'all doing today?" And they both looked at me, and they were young, probably about 16, 18 years old. And they looked at me and sort of said, "Sir, we don't go by ladies." And I went, "Oh, I'm sorry." I said, "Help me understand. I certainly want to call you about what you want to be called." And they said, "Well, this one goes by she, her, them, they." And then I'm like, okay, I'm getting this. And then the other one went by something else, And I said, "Do y'all have time to sit down and talk with me? I don't see people in the store. So do y'all have time? Can y'all help me understand this more? I'm 60 years old. I'm gay. I owned a gay and lesbian news and arts and entertainment magazine for years. You'd think I know about all this, but I guess I haven't kept up with the times." But they sat down and they shared with me about using the right terms, asking people, what are your pronouns, or how do you like to be addressed when someone speaks with you? And they went over all different terms for me. It was about an hour that they shared with me. It was remarkable. And not only that, they talked about God, and they talked about how we don't like God on a cross. We don't like God in heaven. And we don't believe what our parents taught us about that, because we've learned some other things through school, through community, things of that nature. And they were talking about New Thought and didn't really even know that they were talking about New Thought so much. And I'm like, y'all, I said, hallelujah for y'all. I said, I wish I had known this at your age. My life may be a little bit different or a little bit better. I don't know. But I'm amazed by y'all. And today, we still stay in touch. We exchange numbers, and we stay in touch by email as well. But children younger than me, so I'm 60, so they're learning, they're growing, they're teaching us how to be kind. They're teaching us how to have compassion and to forgive, and that everyone deserves a plate at the table. And so I'm learning from them. and I'm capturing them to come into my ministry and to go with me. And when I do the workshop in January, I've got a couple of trans and some gay and bi people coming to actually give their experience so that the people there can relate to it. And the parents there who are confused and don't know what to do or to say to their children that they love, we're going to help them understand. That's new thought. That's emergence. That is evolution. And so I believe that new thought was sort of the beginning of, say, churches accepting people like me into their church. And when I found unity, well, I found unity because of my mother back when I was 14, but I didn't play around with it much. It was like, okay, that's another church she's going to. But when I was older and had those life experiences that still held my heart into heaviness, it was unity that helped me realize and know that I am God, that I have God right here, that I have a purpose in this world, and that I'm exactly who I am for a special reason. And it took a long time to know that. And that's what I want to make sure that everyone knows, is how special they are, and that each one of us is needed to be here at this time and this place. And so therefore, I just believe that as we can feel when a shift is coming. Can't y'all feel that? Can't you feel that you're opening consciously, that your heart is opening, that you're expanding? I mean, I'm sure both of you have felt that. That's happening every single
and I would,
day. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of, looking at the context of the spiral, the whole idea of 360 degrees spiral, that either spirals up or spiral down, and wherever you are on the, right? If I'm at a degree 0.0, either going up or down, the vibration is the same, right? So we're looking at a time, but the energy is changing, whether you're spiraling up or spiraling down. So, I think one of the key components that you were speaking to is we have to be, we can't sugarcoat it no longer. We can't placate it any longer. We have to be able to speak directly to people, which means that how they want to be referred to. What are they looking for? Ask the tough questions. Why are you expressing this way? What some judgmental point, but we need to get a better understanding into, so I can make sure everybody is included to solve the tough problem of today. We know everybody comes here with a unique purpose and set of skills, and if we start lobbing people off because of this, that, and the other, the situation will continue to deteriorate.
Thank you. Wise words there. And new thought holds that infinite intelligence, our God, is everywhere, right? So isn't that a wonderful blessing to know that? There's a lot of people that don't know that. And that spirit is the totality of all things. Humans are divine, right? So when someone hears that for the first time, I see their eyes light up. I feel their chest expand. And whether they're young or whether they're old like me, a shift is happening. And that's where the evolution is happening, Robert. That's where, as things change politically, geographically, nature, all those different types of things that are happening in our world, technology, we also have to shift right here and right here to be a part of that. Or else we're sitting back in our own little, hermit chair in our little house, scared of the rest of the world because we're not a part of it anymore. So,
well, and I think that in many ways, and I've spoken to this before, that traditional religion for a very, very long time made people very wrong. We're inherent born sinners and we are wrong, and no matter what we do, it's not good enough. And so a lot of people woke up to the fact that ain't right. That ain't my experience. That's not the life I want to live. And so they shunned religion completely. And in my opinion, rightfully so. But unfortunately, when they did, they closed the door to any sort of belief or access to a higher power. And so and I don't know a minister alive that I've spoken with that doesn't feel that thrill of watching someone's eyes come awake and alive when they realize, wait a minute, that means that I created all this shit in my life. And that means I can change it. And that means I can make it different. And that when they hear that spark, that promise of self-empowerment, that promise that they have destiny over their own lives, that they have the power to change and control the conditions of their lives. When people hear that, I don't know a minister that doesn't get all let's go when we have that experience. And I think in a big way, our job is to channel that excitement and nurture and embrace that excitement. I heard a great one. I don't know if I've ever heard this before, but it ran across my consciousness and my desk in the last week or so. Our work is to embrace those that don't see this truth, don't see the truth, and empower those that do. If you're hurting and if you're disenfranchised and if you're hurting, we're here to embrace you and hug you and love you and hold you and just whisper in your ear that it's going to be okay and that you are enough. And then after the spark, after they find that epiphany for the person, then our job is to empower them to live that and be their best selves they possibly can be, to be their greatness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
one
to know that.
One of the things we have to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick on that, Robert, is that we have to move away from the guilt and the judging of people or traditional systems, because it causes people to shut down. And if we have, we're not saying that we live in a world that doesn't have rules, but we're telling them we live in a world that has choices and results of those choices.
Yeah.
You have a large part to play in. And so, as opposed to judging you and making you fear and guilt and all that, we want to teach you how to make better decisions. We want to look at the situation and understand what some of the ramifications are, because we know the infinite, but then be able to make intelligent choices if you make a so-called good one or a so-called bad one, because that's going to happen every day, all day.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think we're at
and I guess, hey, Robert.
I'm just gonna say, I think we're at that unique point where I can see the evolution, and the abuse cast on you, Brock, by your grandfather and your family, it becomes the catalyst. And you couldn't have the conversations you're having today. You wouldn't make that impact that you're making today. And more importantly, what we love to talk about is that 7 generations forward, and the impact that you're making today on the generation that's already picked it up. The generation that you're working with that's already picked all this up, it is actually taken the shortcuts to activating these principles, to living these principles and practices. And the generation that's coming behind that we don't even know yet, that's already got it too. It's I think there's a real open arena right now to go beyond the judgments, right? Those judgments your grandfather held against you, to transcend all of that into that deeper sense of wonder and oneness. And just like you and the girls in the shop, I don't get this sometimes. Somebody please help me understand it. And I've got an asexual trans son, and I still put my foot in my mouth at times, and I still make those mistakes. But if we're willing to go out there and keep going, if we're willing to go out there and keep trying, if we're willing to keep stepping up and saying, can you help me better understand this? So that I don't prejudge, so that I can approach new people and people feel safe to approach me. Because when we come from that, there's no question that those around us can read that openness in us versus that not safe to go ask that guy. He's a whole crotchety white man. I ain't going to go ask him.
But, they want to talk with us, the younger generation. They want to hear what we have to say, but they also want us to know what they've learned and what they know. And so I believe that we all are at a place where we're supposed to be at that right time. So the people that I see, I don't necessarily go seek them out. They just show up in my life wherever I walk around every day. But at any rate, I truly believe that when we know that we are co-creators, when we know that we are the one, because of our mouth and our feeling, created what's in our life, we can take that and we can put that out and we can restructure that. We can redo that. We can reinvent, reimagine, and dream and bring it into existence, into our life. And there's a lot of people that don't know that, and so I want to get to as many. I know Martha Creek always says that she wants the whole of the earth to know about her teachings. And so I don't think she says it quite that way, but another way. But I want that too. I want everyone to know that's struggling, that there's a way out if you want out, And I never talked with people about how they should believe about spirit or God or religion. I accept them right where they are. But then when you let them know that there's something really great inside of you, that you are walking, talking, expressing God, then there's a shift, and you see that shift happen, whether they're young people or older people like us, or me. I won't say y'all, but at any rate, so it's an amazing thing, and that we are capable of thinking in new ways, of living in new ways, and being in the world in new ways. Even at our age, we are able and capable. It's right here within us. All we have to do is execute that.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Wow. Folks, what a great conversation. I am super excited that we've had this time to chat with you. Brock, we're going to take another quick break here, folks, and let some of our sponsors say hello. However, we are not done, and we will be back with more of New Thought today. We've got final thoughts coming up and more here on New Thought Media Network. Stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a minute with more here on New Thought Media Network. Until then, we'll be right back.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Yes. Thank you to all of those that are making this network possible. If you'd like to get your name in that movie or be part of our committed giving campaign, please head on over to the website ntmedia.org. Click on the donate button and make yourself a monthly donation. Any amount counts, because it all goes a long way to helping to share the New Thought Media Network and this mighty message of New Thought with everyone we can. All right, Brock, how do people stay in touch with you? How do they learn more?
You can go to my website, which is www.brockford.life. Brock Ford, BROCK.life. There you go. You're scrolling that. Thank you for that. Or they can catch, and when you go there, my phone number's there, my email is there. It's brockfordlife@gmail.com. brockfordlife@gmail.com, because I use life because my ministry is about life. How to have a better life, how to have the best life that you can have and experience as much as you can while you're here. And it's not necessarily about telling them that my New Thought religion is better than your Catholic religion. It's about life. And it's about what we're doing in this life right now and how are we affecting the world that we're in and the people that are around us.
Yes.
But
that sounds like you just went into our final thoughts segment. Right on. But I agree with you, and I love what you're saying. We're all in this. We're all on the same boat. We're all on the same planet. We're all doing the best we can. Now let's work together to give everybody a chance to do better.
Yeah. You know, one of the things, I'm sure everyone knows Karen Drucker, the musician, the singer, pretty well known in New Thought. She has a song, "The Face of God," and I wrote a sermon about that too once, but it's about if we can truly, as we walk down the street, look and see every eye as the eye of God, there's not going to be that judgment. There's not going to be that hatred towards a sect of people or a group of people. So, just like when I was growing up, my grandfather, if he had that, he would have said, go play with that little boy, but that didn't happen. But that can happen now. So at any rate, it's let your light shine and don't put anybody else's light out.
Yeah, beautiful. Hey, before we go, a couple of shout outs to those watching along. Reverend Melissa Higginbotham, Reverend Missy. I think as long as we stay authentically in love, the mistakes will be forgiven. Yes.
Thank you, Missy.
To another Facebook user, I love this show, and Dr. Brock as well. Can we see more? Yes. You can see all kinds of more stuff here on New Thought Media Network. All right, Rev Z, final thoughts before we go.
Yeah, I think, Brock just said it all. We have to work together to create better. It's plain and simple. Just take the walls down, all the potentials out, and let's just work towards a better place for everybody.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Rev Z, for being here. Dr. Brock, thank you. I trust you'll be able to come back and join us again sometime.
Anytime you want, you let me know.
All righty. Hopefully, we'll be able to have you back before next year's ANTN conference. And I know I'm going to be dragging Reverend LZ along to that conference with us this year.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
Person. Folks, if you'd like to learn more about the affiliated New Thought Network and the upcoming annual conference, check them out, antn.org. The conference is in October 2nd through the 6th this year at beautiful Unity Village. So we'd love to have you join us for that as well. All right. This has been New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. We're going to get out of here. Wish you a great and happy afternoon. Please stay with us and join us later this evening. Spanish language programming tonight at 6 and our final prayers at 8:15. Until the next time, we wish you all peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
Thank you.